Welcome to ViviTalks. I'm Vivienne Aerts. Join me in celebrating 100 talented female musicians from my last album, Typuhthâng, empowering female cacao farmers in Congo's Virunga State Park and restoring the rainforest. Delve into the musical journeys, creative processes, and unique perspectives of these talented women that were involved in the making of this album. Yulia Komo is a singer-songwriter with an Eastern European soul and an international mind. Her passion for people and change has made her travel and live all over the world while developing social change projects, building and supporting communities, and sharing her music and stories. Her motto is "Perform to Transform." In this episode, we delve deep into her music and performance career, as well as her involvement in social change projects, where music serves as both the spark and the fuel. Welcome, Julia, to my official podcast. It's such a pleasure to have you here, and it's been great to know you for many, many years. I think we met in 2012.
13.
Yes.
Yeah, 10 years ago.
10 years ago. Yeah. So we met through Fulbright because you're a Fulbright scholar as well. And tell me a little bit about you and what you do, and to get it started.
Yeah, well, as you know, I'm Yulia Komo. That's my stage name, a short version of my full name. And I currently live in the Netherlands. And indeed, we met through Fulbright when I lived in the US. That was from 2012 to 2015, I believe, 3 years. Did my master's degree in Washington, D.C. It was in international media and communication. So that's actually what I've been working with. And that's a big passion of mine, media and communications. That's what I've been doing throughout life, but mostly with social impact, non-profit organizations, international, national, local, all over the place. And it was always for me important to integrate music. And I think music is my life, and everything I do is somehow connected, even though sometimes it's very hard to perceive. When people ask me, is music your hobby or is it professional hobby? I don't know what to answer, because I maybe don't work in music as it is normally perceived, but I feel like I have music everywhere, in every part of my life. Being married to a musician, having kids musicians, working in social projects that involve music and the music for change and so on. So that's where I am at the moment. I'm still I'm 41 now, and I'm still trying to figure out how to make sure that everything is integrated in the best balance in my life. How can I not define anything that I'm doing as a official work, non-official work, profession, non-profession, but just do what I like and enjoy it and get paid for it, and and get developing it and start new projects. So I was very happy when you invited me to the podcast, because I felt like this is really nice point in life also for me to reflect a little bit with a fellow musician, and not just a musician, but so much more about where we are and what kind of interesting paths music takes us on.
Right. And I remember you were talking about, when we met, you told me about you having a band back in the day. That's how you met your husband, right? Can you tell me a little bit about that? You were composing, and what style was it? And
well, it's still very hard for me to talk in styles, but I think it was more or less soft rock, female rock. I don't know. There are so many different definitions. Piano rock. Yes, I started writing songs. Well, the moment when I realized I'm writing songs and not just kind of making up things, you know, as I walk. When I wanted to write them down, when I realized there is a certain form and that this is really something coming out and I want to express it. I think maybe around the age of 16, 17, earlier as well, but it was more, I went to music school and I would come to my classes, piano classes, and then I was going through quite a difficult period, being a teenager, 12 to 13, also the parents' divorce and everything. So I was trying to skip my music school. And it was like a 10-year proper after-school music education with solfeggio, with music literature, history, you know, piano and everything. And it was quite intense because most of my friends started to, you know, go for walks after school, hang out, and I was still going, and I had to do lots of tasks, also solfeggio tasks. And my teacher, I really love her dearly, and I'm still friends with her on Facebook. My piano teacher, she told me, you know, I feel like you are not the type that likes to copy things, but in order to learn to play piano, you need to copy things. So in order for you to stay on, because I started skipping lessons and not doing my homework and everything, said, don't do homework. You only practice when you come to class, but you come to class. It was 3 days a week or something. It was really intense. And then every time you learn Bach, Mozart, and all the other classics, you can also learn something fun. We can find a song from a TV show or from like a favorite cartoon or something, and we can try to arrange it. So I think she gave me this confidence back then. She also managed to keep me through the hardest year, right? When everybody would drop school, music school, and I didn't, by these tricks. But also she gave me space to like that music education doesn't have to be about copying something, that I can actually compose or improvise. And that was really an eye opener for me. Of course, it was just improvisation and everything. And I knew it existed, but I felt it's a separate science kind of, right? That you have to go onto this track, and it felt very foreign to me. And this classical music also didn't feel, I liked it, but it didn't feel like that's what I'm going to do when I finish music school. And because she gave me this space for improvisation, when I actually finished music school and graduated from high school, I suddenly I felt very empty, that I don't have this in my life any longer. So I think now that I look back, I can feel that's when the real composition of songs started. And so as soon as I had enough confidence to go out for rehearsals, auditions, to try to find fellow musicians, first it was really like music jams with school friends. And then it was more really like, it was also, I already told how old I am, so it was also the dawn of internet as we know now, with like music forums and everything. So it was quite hard to go online and find somebody. But, you know, I started slowly to find musicians. I went to so many rehearsals and I had so many different styles and I tried so many things. And then I realized, no, wait, you're writing your own songs. I had like 6 or 7 songs at this time. But I was like, this is enough to start your own band. And that's how I started to look for musicians. That was back in 2000, I think, 2001, 2002. And then by 2005, I already formed, I tried out in several bands and I formed my own kind of 2 female singers, Black and White, we were called. I was black and she was white. And it was more like even a pop, I don't know, it was something that we just tried to experiment with. We had a proper guitar player, bass player, drummer, and yeah, it was very, very nice period. We sang in the festivals. We were in clubs, maybe two or three times a month, and on different. We promoted our songs. You know, we burned the CDs and brought them to radio stations. It was really exciting, and I loved this period. And I think, well, our guitar player was a really great arranger. I don't know what's the right word for it, but he was really good. He was very young and he is very talented still, and he helped arrange a lot of my kind of raw ideas and really make it into good sounding music. And so since that black and white band, I think it just, the whole new world opened up to me. I realized how it is to make a band. So I thought, this is what I'm going to do my whole life. Like, I seriously thought even quitting the job. I was already doing some non-profit work at that moment, and communications and PR. And then I felt like, oh my God, this is so exciting. I'm just like, I'm living through the date for the evening rehearsal, for the concert, you know, for the weekends, for the festivals and everything. And I think that, yeah, that was very good. It was very proper life education for me, because I had to do everything myself. You know, I had to talk to the clubs. I had to talk to, I had to manage the band, make sure that we get rehearsal space, everything. I mean, like, burn the CDs, find designers, you know it better than anyone, right? How it is. And I was in my early 20s, and it was also, again, it seems weird now to keep repeating it, but I also feel very empowered now, realizing that it was the early days of internet, of forums. You know, it was very hard to find people. You just had to find people physically in the rehearsal studios, and that was also exciting, but sometimes challenging. Yes. And then after that, with step by step, it just kept growing. And the music that I was writing for this kind of band was not enough for me. So I started to experiment, and then I really wanted to see how my voice and my songs sound together with male voice. So I had another band that was called Butterfly. And maybe you stop me because I can talk forever and you don't ask questions, but I have now all these memories pouring into my mind. And the Butterfly band, I think, just to give you an idea about my kind of thinking, the reason it was called Butterfly, there was a special reason, because I was very interested in hearing how my voice works together with a male falsetto, kind of. So I would sing with a higher voice, lower parts, and he would sing with a male but falsetto voice with higher parts. And then there was a butterfly effect, as if, like, you know, the higher voice going down and a lower voice going up, and then we meet somewhere in the I don't know. And I don't even have the right terms for it. I just felt it sounded very interesting and special. And so I was trying to make this. And again, I learned solfeggio and everything, but I never learned to arrange. So it was all kind of intuitive. And yeah, that was, I had this, I don't know, physical, aesthetic pleasure from seeing how all these experiments come into life. Yeah. So, and I kept experimenting, and then I found a drummer who became my husband, and we continued experimenting, and we are still experimenting, each in our own way, because I think the funny fact about me that all the drummers that I met after they spent some time with me, they don't marry me, all of them, just one, but all of them feel that they also want to become singer-songwriter. So I have this talent of opening them up, singing, songwriting potential in musicians of different kinds. So my husband is now also, well, he was always writing songs himself, but he always positioned himself as a drummer and drummer only. But after 5 or 6 years playing with me, traveling with me, living with me, he had enough courage to kind of come out and start performing with his own songs. But that's a separate story.
That's great that you inspired him to start writing himself. That's
yeah, I think, well, writing he always did. He even performed as a singer-songwriter, but then he decided, you know, drumming is what he does best, and this is more like a hobby for him. So he has his own story to tell. Maybe you can do an interview with him separately. But yeah, the fact that he is now, he feels like drumming is his profession, or like his skill, that he teaches drums to kids and to adults too. But I think seeing how what he told me at some point was just seeing how I go for it, no matter, like, I don't think about am I going to be a singer? Am I not? I just write songs, and then I have a really how do you say, intrinsic internal need, like basic need to share the songs as soon as I wrote them. And for him, it was always a matter of like really hard work to make a song sound right and to record it properly and then I think that's the secret actually, because he just sees that, I sit down and I play it on the piano and I do an online concert and I don't care. I mean, and people love it, and because it comes from the heart, and even if the sound is not so good, I want to strive for a good sound. But for me, it's very important to share the song as soon as it is born. Well, I'd spend some time to make it sound good, but I don't make it perfect. Yeah, and it gives. I see people who were doubting. I see people around me when they see the easiness of it. Well, seeming easiness, but still, it gives courage or confidence to other people. I think to feel like, well, if I'm writing the songs, why should I wait and do all the make all the proper steps and find the proper musicians if I can already start with something? Yeah, I think that's. I'm not sure if it's right, but I think that's my lesson for myself, at least. And if somebody else is taking it on, I'm happy. I think I'm at the point when I want to professionalize, and I do want to do something beautiful with my music, that people don't just hear them on the broken recording on my telephone. I really want to record it nicely, but it doesn't stop me from continuing the online concerts and just, calling my friend on the phone and singing to her and making somebody very happy with what they hear.
Right. Can you just describe us like a moment when your music had that profound impact on somebody's life? Can you? Because you talk about you just share, right? I think that's one of your powers. That's
my
it's just you. I really appreciate that. I really respect you for just being you. I think that's beautiful. But yeah, share one of these moments that you were sharing.
That's why I called my Instagram Yulia Shares, because that's at some point I'm a very reflexive person, and I have thought many years also living with having friends and a partner who is not so sharing. It's harder, like introvert, extrovert, and I've been reflecting throughout my life and thinking sometimes that it is my weakness, that I don't I don't wait for things to share. I need this. I have like this instant brain, heart, and outside world wave. I mean, of course, it's not like I say everything that comes to my mind without thinking. It's more about creation, right? Creative stuff. That as soon as I see something beautiful that I think would make somebody happy, I want to share it immediately. Or when something comes to me, because I really truly I believe that certain songs, words, music come to me because I am who I am, but I don't believe they're mine fully. I believe that I'm just kind of this intermediary, and with my own way to bring them out to life, and also language, right? Because I don't write only in English, I write in Russian, that's my native language. And somebody else could have received a similar inspiration, but written in German, or so there is something special in the combination of words and music, that the way it comes out. Well, sometimes I'm actually some songs come to me when something happened that not to me personally, but to somebody who is very close to me, and sometimes it's not even very close, but profoundly touched me. And then I don't know the moment what happens exactly. I can't describe it, but then something comes, and I just know that I have to share this song with this person. So that's why I'm talking about this impact, because it's not about like telling somebody what to do. Sometimes the words don't have anything to do with the person's situations, but the way I have felt when I heard a story from somebody, the way how it made me feel, it comes out in a certain sound and words. And then for me, it's always magic how it happens still. But I sing this person, I sing the song to this person particularly, and it touches the right strings and it works the magic, you know. And then that's mainly for unfortunately sad situations, right? The loss of somebody, or like some kind of sorrow. It really helps, because this is my way to cope with it, because if something is happening to somebody I care about, I really this is my way of dealing with it. Yeah. But also other things, yeah. Well, one good example is this artist. She was really she's really talented. I think I gave you a card recently when we met recently by her, and she had a lot of confidence issues 2 or 3 years ago. We met online in a female community, and she was sharing. We had these meetings kind of with psychological support and to each other during the pandemic. Yeah, so it was nice for women with kids. Rita, her name is Rita Dreva. She's Russian. She's I think Kazakh. Yeah, she was born in Kazakhstan, and she's Russian speaking. Dreva is a tree in Russian, but it actually is her family name, so it's really beautiful. And she's like this. She draws in this very nice natural patterns, and she was already drawing and doing some master classes and workshops, but she felt like she's not fully. She had lots of fears to become bigger, to really share her art with the world. And then she was sharing it over several meetings online, and it really connected with what I was feeling about some of my processes, about my fears that I was going through. And then this song came out, and I didn't know that it was for her. It came for me. It was called "I'm Not Afraid Anymore" in Russian. It was in "Не боюсь," I'm not afraid. And then at some online concert, she was there, and I sang for her, and she started crying, and she said, "This is exactly what I needed to hear. I'm going to record just this online meeting, and I will put this song on loop until I start." And I mean, 2 or 3 years later, she's doing amazing work. She's selling her paintings all around the world, and she's doing these metaphorical cards that we did together a joint calendar with some inspiration, musical, metaphysical, and artistic. So the way she has transformed, not because of my song, of course, but just knowing that she had this song on repeat to help her overcome, go to the completely next stage of her development. That was really inspiring for me. And each time I sing it, or if I record and share on Instagram, because each time I sing it, it feels different. The words and music stays the same, but it's really, for me, it was also transformational. So I'm facing new fears in life, and it still is relevant each time on its own level. Yeah, and she writes to me. She's like, "Oh, I listened to the song again, and I remember this opening up, that I'm not afraid anymore." Yeah, I let go of all the fears. Yeah, so that's I think that may be a good on top of my head, a good example. Also, some people just write to me that if you can please send me a recording of the song, because I want to listen it when I wake up in the morning, because I want to listen it for me it sounds like a morning affirmation, or I want to go to bed with it, and that really touches me. That gives me strength to go on with all the things concerning recording and technical part are very difficult for me. So this is a challenge for me. And if I hear that people need it, and I realize that it's not just to get it done for myself, but that there is somebody out there who is waiting for it to listen to in the mornings or in the evenings going to bed. And I'm like, okay, if there are 2 or 3 people in this world that need it, I will, push through, and I will challenge myself to all the technical sides, and will record them as well as I can do.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thanks for sharing that. I think that really shows how passionate you are and how you are able to bring out your voice and your feelings, and that way connect to your audience. And yeah, how big or how small doesn't really matter, right? It's about sharing in that sense. Yeah, that's great. My next question would be, since you're part of this women project of mine, can you share, have you faced any stereotypes or biases being a woman, and how do you challenge or overcome it?
Okay. Well, I work a lot with women empowerment, so it's a very hard question for me, because it's part of the work that I'm doing is really empowering women, and also working with this. I mean, it should be an easy, but it's a hard question, because I feel I have a professional distortion in a way, because I really believe in women's power, and that's also how I was raised. I think a little bit too much of and I don't know. It's not even feminist agenda. It's more kind of you don't have to worry about being a woman. And I'm very grateful for how I was raised, where I was raised, and how no matter what people I met throughout my life who kept reinforcing this, right? So I think I've been lucky enough to set an example also to other people by saying, because even when I got the Fulbright scholarship, and everybody kept telling me, well, but you have a husband, and my kid was 2.5 years old. This is not my family, not my close friends, but more kind of the second circle, I would say. That it's insane, because my husband wouldn't be work when I lived in the US, because we were on student visa and he was my dependent, and that's completely insane in your early 30s with a small child to become a sole breadwinner, to really move your family across the whole world, and for an education that you want to pursue, for the master's degree. That just seemed, and my family is really always supported me in going. My mom still hopes I get my PhD probably, but no pressure. She's like, whenever you feel like it. She has her PhD, but it wasn't about the degree. It was really about the experience. And of course, it was a big honor, because it was quite a competitive scholarship to get the scholarship and everything. So, but I think that was a big challenge that really changed my life. And a lot of I didn't realize that how it impacted people around me, because when they saw, it wasn't easy at all, but when they saw that it is possible, and that you can be a woman, you can get a scholarship, you can be a mother, a very young mother with a 2-year-old child. I just weaned her and I went to the US. And you can see, this seems like first world problems, but it felt very challenging in the moment, at that moment. And I wasn't sure if I can make it. Several times I was ready to stop and think, I really can't bear all this responsibility. I've taken too much on myself. But it was more kind of inner voices also from like grandmothers and saying, you're supposed to be weaker, you shouldn't be stronger, you shouldn't earn more than your husband, you shouldn't strive for more than your partner, and you should take care of your child, not of your studies. It wasn't like this exactly, but there was always something behind there in the back that, am I doing the right thing? What is it, too egoistic, or who am I trying? What am I trying to prove? To whom? So maybe that was, but since then, I've heard so many people say that I inspired them, women, to come out of their kind of closed world and to try things, even when they're pregnant or having kids or not having kids, just like not to be scared, well, still being scared, but seeing that I made it possible. And then we moved to the Netherlands, and that was also for my job. That was also a big shock. And like, okay, now you're going to continue your career development. Are you going to have more kids? You know, and it's just all these voices in society, and I understand them, but I never let them stop me really. And I want, yeah, I think it was important for me that it is, again, that's how I am, I guess, that it impacted other people positively, that they saw. And I realized at some point I didn't try to prove anything. I was ready to fail at any point, and I wouldn't feel like a failure. I mean, it was like, you learn by things. Fail in terms of, say that, you know, I'm not fit for this, I'm not carved for this, I want to have, like, I want a back seat and just not kind of push through. But as long as curiosity in music, in work, in life, as long as I have some curiosity that pushes me, I feel I have the strength on going. And then it doesn't matter which gender I am, it doesn't matter what other society. Of course, I think having also said that, all, I've been privileged to live in the societies and having, you know, the skin color, things like this. You know, I have privileges. I didn't grow up, and I grew up in quite a poor family, but with very strong position on, I don't know, liberal or something, but with a strong position that everything is possible, right? Both my father and mother told continuously to me and my brother that if you want something, we will support you. Maybe we don't understand you, but it doesn't matter who you are, where you are, what you came from. You will get it done. You will figure it out. And if you, by the time you figure it out, you realize you don't want it, it's okay. You can drop it and try something else. So, you know, I think this intrinsic freedom, I really just wish that so many more women were able to hear this voice on top of all the other voices that we hear too often. And I think I made it part of my work, kind of mission, because I worked for Dance for Life project for many years, which is youth empowerment, and there was a big component of young women empowerment. The whole project started from sexual reproductive health and rights, and it used music and dance to kind of get to young people, instead of boring lectures about your sexual health, and make it more smooth and soft and kind of connect to them, and then educate and empower. But the project was active in many parts of the world. And when I moved to the Netherlands, part of my job was related to Africa. And then it was completely new world to me. And when I went there, I saw how, how things that seemed like given to me, with sexual reproductive health and rights, with your own choices and everything, was so different. And I saw that everything we are doing is helping to give more opportunities. I'm not talking even about change, or like, we didn't try to change anything. We just tried to open up the options, that you have so many more options. And then for years I've seen how it's like a light suddenly switches on, especially with young people. You can really see it almost visually, physically, and they're like, oh, so it could have been, we could do it like this. Is it allowed to do things like this? Can we think about more than the reason I talked about Africa, because of course everywhere else I worked, it was always the same. But I think it was really striking for me when I went to Zambia first, with a similar training that I've done in Eastern Europe, Central Asia, in America, in Netherlands. And it was completely different setting. So everything around me was completely different. But for me, it was really amazing that every word, everything we did, you know, from every question we asked, and we get we had so much more in common even than my Dutch colleagues, you know, growing up in a similar, it was completely different setting, Soviet Union and Zambia, right? It's completely different history and everything. But my Dutch colleagues even said, they were like, I think you understand each other better. Like there are certain things that you go through with like, so for example, families of these girls were much more empowering than, I mean, we have this thing that in the West, it's always kind of lots of empowerment and women with feminist agenda, and then all around in the developing countries, it's completely different. But it turned out that due to certain things, you know, very different factors, but very similar effect, that women felt more in charge and empowered there. They had less options, but they felt more. It took maybe 1 or 2 days, and then you can already see some new
take the lead.
Yeah. So that showed me just this very different experience. It showed me that it doesn't matter, you know, where you are, what culture. There are a lot of factors that influence you. Sometimes it is harder, but it doesn't matter which gender you are. Of course, there is a lot of restricting factors in society and everything. But if there are somebody who can help you kind of light this spark, and then there is also something continuous, right, that you can rely on, a certain system or person, you know, mentor, or even just a how do you say, the role model, right, to get you through the first kind of steps out. I don't know, coming out. For some reason, this word comes back to me. Then it just gets much easier. I think that yeah, when I saw your your concept, I was really happy about it, and especially when you were explaining it this summer at the concert. You don't think about it if you don't put your mind to it. You don't think about it. What you said, the sound producers, all kinds of, like, if you really make sure that everybody who is involved are women or are of a certain age, you know, that's my experience also. When we do youth projects, sometimes a lot of older people are doing because they think they know better, but you really need to involve young people at every stage. The same projects that we do with women who have HIV, a lot of program managers think they know better, but if a woman who has HIV knows what exactly she needs others to hear about her living with this, then it's completely different from any high-skilled, knowledgeable, you know. So I think it's very important to be consistent, that if you want to talk about women empowerment, that you really follow through every step. For me, that was very empowering in what I saw. Yeah, that I never realized this, but I never ever in my life worked with a female sound producer. Just, yeah. And so keeping it in mind, I was like, I don't know anyone. Like I went to my husband. I was like, do you know any female? Yeah, but like, if you don't make an effort, that's the thing that I just, that's also what I also tried in my work. But like, if you only made an effort, because I always heard these excuses. Yeah, but young people are too busy. They are not interested with a similar parallel. You know, if you do youth-oriented, youth-focused project, that you really do, you involve young people, not to consult them, not to kind of do focus groups with them, but really have them designing, and you just guard the space and maybe guide and mentor in a very sensitive way. But, and I remember facing all these arguments that, yeah, but they're busy in school and we will disrupt and this and that, and maybe they don't know enough. And like, but how can you talk about youth projects if you don't make an extra effort to make it work, that the young person is involved? So for me, that was really inspiring, that you need to make an effort to find a sound engineer who is female. But sometimes it's easier because all your friends were sound engineers and they're all male, and it's maybe easier to ask a friend. But if you really commit to the idea, then you take a extra step. So thank you for that.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, it's about making women more visible, right? Because obviously there's a gazillion of like amazing musicians, and we don't know. So yeah, this project was well inspired on these women in Congo, obviously, but I wanted to show that there's so many amazing women out there doing all these different things and being from different countries and different backgrounds, and it just made sense to just like conceptualize it into such detail, because then it's not a gimmick, right? It just happened to be that like that. And I knew all of these women in different play. You know, I met you in DC through Fulbright, and some people I met at the conservatory in the Netherlands, or in Berkeley, or I met them in Italy at like some workshops I did. And so just to show how we can actually make a change if we're more visible, right?
Yeah.
And then you feel empowered, because then they are involved in all these projects too, and you hear their stories, and people can learn from each other all the time in different ways. And it's that's you know, we want to be hired because we're good at what we do, not because we're a woman. So just showing how there are all these amazing talents available, you know, that I think that's the way to go.
Yeah, and it's interesting because there is so much in the Western world, at least now, that we know about female leaders and women in power. But I feel like it will take some time, but until it's not even an issue, what gender you are, right? It's like, right. I see a lot of wonderful men saying, you know, but we believe in women's power and women's leadership. And I say, you know, but why are we talking even about women's power? I mean, right. It of course it's idealistic, but and I also don't believe that men and women are completely similar, because they are not. There are certain things that are different by nature, but whatever, it's not. But if you don't look at it, it's the same for me as people of different age have different possibilities and limitations. But it doesn't mean that they're confined only to this certain kind of job or this certain space, right? So because we were just having this conversation at work recently, we have almost all male board of directors. I mean, we have a couple of women. One is an observer, and I came there when the board was already formed, so we are reforming the board now. But it just happened accidentally also because maybe, I mean, my guess is men felt more confident in taking up board roles, because the directors were always female, the directors of organizations, but the board members were always male. And I'm sure that the former director, for example, she might have invited women, and maybe women didn't take, again, because also there is so much on the plate and it's just traditional. So it's sometimes that's also what we deal with. For example, when we work in public health, I gave you an example of women with HIV. There is a lot of self-stigma, right? And that means in public health, that, or specifically people living with HIV, that's a certain term that we use. But it made me realize, you know, even I would think twice still, with all the empowerment I have in my life, if I'm invited to the board with all male, you know, do I want to be there? Especially it's a voluntary position. Do I really have space? I have 2 kids. One is a little, you know, I have all my music and everything. Even if I'm passionate about it, it's just too much to fight another battle, you know? So sometimes we just give up too early, because it feels, of course, if I'm invited and there's half women and half men, it would be less of a restriction. But then I think if I don't go there, and then nobody, other women will do. So it's always this choice that you have to struggle for some reason. And it was funny to hear from kind of board members that said, yeah, but we really believe in women power, and the organization is led by women and guided by women and so on. And we felt, yeah, well, maybe led by women as directors, but guided by the board of directors almost. So, and even when we had this meeting in the room, there were half women and half men, and it just happened intuitively. And it's people from all kind of backgrounds, very prominent and everything. But men sat on one side of the table and women on the others. It's just something there that it's kind of also like flock of a feather, what the birds of a feather flock together. I don't know, maybe it's nice to sit together with a female circle. It's okay, as long as it doesn't become an obstacle, right? And then at some certain, at a certain point on the meeting, men sitting on one side and women on the other, it just felt like we are in opposition. And then we, in the break, we said, you know, let's mix it up, because and it wasn't conscious. That's what I find interesting, that we still want to kind of side with each other, which is fine. But then if it becomes really men talking to women, you know, on different sides of table, it's just all the small things we are not aware of. So I found with the concept of self stigma recently really interesting for me, also in music, because it's kind of on the verge of self-awareness that as a woman you kind of feel you have this many paths, and as a woman living with a husband who is a male musician, I see we both face very similar challenges, but there are certain things he wouldn't even think of, like what to wear, a short skirt or a long skirt, if he's sexually objectified, I don't know what's the right word, but on the stage, you know, there's small things. Right. But for example, just recently in December, we performed together, and it was a very high stage and everybody was standing down, and I was going to wear a short dress. I mean, we had very similar process. It was just funny. I mean, it wasn't anything dramatic, but just with this one extra thing to think about, because I was like conscious about it, that people would, if the skirt is too short, that would feel really weird from down. Yeah. And he was like, oh, that's not the thing I have to worry about. You know, I worry about all kinds of other things. If the chords are right, if the sound is right, if the light is right. And this is extra thing that if the hair is good, you know, even makeup, everything can be similar these days. But there are just certain things that are different and that make us more aware. Because I had, unfortunately, accidents before in my life when I was objectivized on stage, and when people were saying, you know, like, oh, you're so sexy and things like this, which is fine. I want to look sexy, but then it just turns into a nasty comment at some point, and you're there to share the music. But I was very young, and I wanted to dress brightly and kind of have, you know, but that's the thing, that you just want to be in your kind of beauty, and you forget that nobody, I mean, of course, men get comments from women as well, oh, sexy boy and everything, but somehow with a female, it feels on the verge that you leave the club and somebody could walk after you, you know. With a man, it doesn't feel like this. So these are some very clear things that you have to keep in mind being a woman all the time, and men don't think about it. So it's very nice to have a fellow musician, and like we can have comparative studies, being a researcher, you know, we can have comparative studies all the time. Even getting a slot in the club sometimes is easier for male musicians still than female musicians. It just kind of nobody would ever say, oh yes, of course, but just we have a very good reference base. For 15 years will be 15 years of our anniversary in a couple of weeks. So for 15 years together, wedding anniversary, 16 years we had together and 15 years married. We had so much comparative reference data that we maybe should write a book about it one day.
Yeah. That I mean, that all makes a lot of sense. Obviously, I've been through a lot of that in different ways as well. And I hope we're growing towards a change, and where we don't have to constantly think about how we're perceived. And
and I always feel like I don't want to get like too radical in anything for myself, right? So some people choose very radical paths. I think it's fine that there is certain differences. Well, the biggest difference, I mean, I worked in sexual reproductive health for years. The biggest difference is, according to science, men can still not bear babies and women can. So that impacts your career, your life, your body, everything, right? So that's not every woman chooses to have a baby, but just having this possibility, or can have a child, but it's having this reproductive possibility. It's just a kind of physiological thing that you need to be aware of. Even I'm sorry to say that, but in a case of rape and everything, that you can get pregnant, and that can completely take your life. And I mean, I worked with this for many years. I might it almost became like a common subject for me. I realized that not many people talk about it, but that's the thing, that it almost became like medical for me. It's very difficult subject to talk about, but because I've talked about it for so long and with so many people, I feel like, yeah, we have to be aware that there are certain things that are there, and we cannot ignore them. And in that sense, it will take maybe more years to kind of build the overall society perception, to make sure that, like I said, my ideal picture at this point of life and philosophy is that we don't even talk about gender, right? It's not an issue. It's not a factor. It's like it's just one of the characteristics of a person, but it's not something, oh, if you're a woman, then you might not be able to get this because this is only for men. You know, it's not about that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thanks.
You touched a very you're touching strings. Yeah.
Great. I have another question. What advice would you give to aspiring musicians who are just starting their musical journey?
I think maybe I'm thinking about the advice that I wish I received when I was starting.
I like that.
And I'm just thinking, I'm not sure that any advice would help, because I would do it my own way anyway. I don't know. One thing I've been pondering over recently is maybe not. I don't know. I am not sure if it works for everyone, if it's good advice for everyone, but maybe not to be so desperate or so serious. I don't know how to phrase it better. I think at some point of life, for me, it was like a choice that I have to make. It's either music or nothing, you know, like to be really black and white. I mean, even the band was called Black and White. So really, it's like you're either a musician or you just, then it becomes your hobby or whatever, your way of spending time. But like being very, I see it also I saw it in my bandmates and a lot of people who were coming up musicians along my side, that it's not about not having ambition. That's why it's so hard to phrase it for me. But I think if I would be in a way still ambitious, but lighter about it. Not so, I don't know, I have this word, not so desperate. I mean, I cried so many times not being accepted somewhere for auditions, or not like music competitions or festivals or something. And I wouldn't cry now. I would really be like, oh my God, then another opportunity, you know. It was, yeah. I don't know. That's why it's so hard for me to talk about advice, because maybe that's what kept me driven.
Right.
Yeah, that's maybe what kept me going. Maybe that was also very good. You know, I cried and then I was like, no, but I'll try again and I'll try again. And I got things that I wanted. But
maybe being attached, is that a better word then?
Yeah, like fixated, you know, like not make it like the sole purpose of your music journey to I think I had this period, and it was that's why it's so hard to give an advice, because I think it was right for me looking back. But I had this period when I was like so desperate that I have to break through in the music industry. And people kept asking me, you know, do you want to become a famous musician? And I know what was very cool for me, that I want to share my music. So not for my songs to become famous so somebody else sings them. So there was something always the same for me, that I wanted to share it on the stage, my singing, my music, with people. And I realized that in order to have a bigger impact, I needed to become more famous. So it was like just this kind of pattern or that I was following, that I just need to become famous, not for the sake of becoming famous, but really so that I can share it with more and more people. And then it became like a vicious circle, kind of, right? So you lose the purpose in the middle. So at some point I just dropped everything and I stopped. And then I was in silence for a year or two, and then the music kept coming. And then I realized I just cannot not write songs. So if and when I write songs, I cannot not share them. I cannot just write a song and put it away. This is not who I am. So I was like, okay, so no matter how many people hear the song, I still feel very happy. No matter if I have concerts and all, I still write a song. So I had to kind of rewind it back to the core of why am I writing, why am I performing, what it gives me, what it gives other people. And then I just was a little bit at some point sorry that I spent so much energy and time kind of desperately trying for things that didn't really matter to me. But that's why I say it's not advice for anyone, for everyone. I think my advice is that if you cannot not share your songs, cannot not write your song, just keep doing it, no matter if you are working as an engineer, biologist, whoever, right? Don't try to make it like your whole life purpose. You're either a musician or not. I think for me, I'm still in this process of accepting it. That's why it's so hard to formulate it, because I still have this idea, maybe generational, because my mother was, she graduated from conservatory. She was a music kind of teacher, a specialist. That was her education, though she never worked as a music teacher. My grandmother was a piano teacher, and she worked all her life as a piano teacher. So it always, there is something in the generations that you need to have professional education, and you can really call yourself a musician if you have been doing it like consistently, earning money with it, and I'm still trying to get rid of this, and this is nonsense. But how do I just tone it down a little bit? Don't spend all your life trying to figure out whether you're a professional musician or not. Just continue creating music, whatever people call you. People say it's your hobby, let them say it's your hobby. Don't worry about it. Just do it because it makes you happy and other people happy. Maybe that's the conclusion of my circled reply.
Well, if you identify yourself as an artist or as a musician, then you are, right? It doesn't matter if you have gone to conservatory or make your regular income from that, because there's a gazillion of artists in the world that never went through college, or it's an artistic expression is just part of what you are, what you do. So but the constructs of society make you believe that you have to officially declare this as what you do. And I totally agree with you that's not the way to go, because you can get very split minds or very frustrated if it doesn't work out to be famous. Like the definition of famous is playing big concert, right? It doesn't make sense. Also, my music is in a niche, so I don't play arenas. Well, who knows? It might happen, but it would be wrong to wander for that, because it doesn't serve the purpose. I'd rather have just like you say, the connection with an audience, and that that's what you make music for, to express
Yeah.
yourself and to make that connection. Yeah.
Yeah, and also that's what I was trying to say, that I realized later in life that maybe it gave me some drive at some point, but I also don't want. It also ate up a lot of my energy. Just thinking about it and reflecting on it and so on. And there is a word that comes to my mind is about lightness. It's very important to me that things, not that everything is light or music is light or anything, but just feeling light about what you do is very important for me now. That I don't attach too many constructs and too many expectations, or just going with it. And that also relates to the point in life, if I don't write music or don't want to sing anything any longer, that's also fine. I think it's just, I maybe just got there to realize, as well as a lot of other things, to let myself not be confined by who I am at any point of life. And of course, there is experience, education, track record, and all the things. But maybe it's also the midlife crisis. Hopefully, it's midlife, and even not even yet. But really, really being able to drop things if you don't want to do them any longer, and not drag on, forever. Mm-hmm. Just trying to make your point to yourself or to someone, just but I've been trying to perform all my life with my songs, so I have to get it done somehow. Why? As long as I want it, I will. If I don't want it, if I recently noticed I'm loving it when my daughters are singing and performing. Sometimes I love it much more because it kind of gives me a similar feeling, but I don't have to work hard. I have to work hard as a mother for it, but like they're on stage and I'm in the audience, and I have the same sensation, rewarding sensation that I have when I perform my own music. And then I'm like, oh, so you can get the same effect by not performing your own music, just by having your daughters perform music. Okay, then maybe there are always alternatives and substitutes. So then if I get the same hormones or whatever, this is the same effect from something else, or if I start running, I never ran professionally, and then I get the same, and I love it so much, and then it gives me so much pleasure the same way that music used to give me. That's fine. That's completely fine, as long as I was just biking to our call this morning or this afternoon, and I was thinking with my two daughters, and I was looking at them, and I was thinking, just two words: happy and healthy. Like, I really don't care who I am at this point. I don't care who they become, which advice they get in school, and which profession they take, which gender they take. And like, really, I had this very free and purifying just on the bike several hours ago, looking at them, and like two words: happy and healthy, happy and healthy. And I was looking, and I felt so free and so good. I was like, oh my God, I don't have to worry anymore. Then the panic will come again at some point, and I will have to worry about things. But at that moment, I felt so free that whatever they choose to be, singers, not singers, whatever they choose to do in life, if they're happy about it and healthy, that's like two important things, most important things for me. And then I realized this is for myself too, right? Because I've sometimes driven myself so hard, that I lost my health, I lost happiness, I lost the feeling. And this is the two things that at this point of life matter most.
Yeah. Well, on that note, thank you for sharing that. Thank you for being so open and for sharing. And they can find your Instagram, Yulia Shares, with
Yulia, with Y, with a Y. Yulia Shares.
And thanks for being a friend. It's been such a pleasure to know you, and I'm sure.
And thank you for creating this space.
Yes.
Yes, and I really hope that in the next project, because I was so happy to participate with one note in this project, but I hope that in the next project I will be in the right place, and we will make something wonderful together. And I really wish you, thank you for the inspiration.
As I conclude this episode of ViviTalks, I want to express my sincere gratitude for joining me in this musical journey. I hope you enjoyed exploring the stories and experiences of the incredible female musicians on my album. To stay updated on our latest episodes, subscribe to ViviTalks on your favorite podcast platform. Connect with me on social media through Vivienne, and please check out my album Typuhthâng, a musical exchange featuring 100 female musicians to empower female cacao farmers of Virunga State Park in Congo. It's about more than just music. It's about making a positive impact in the world. Your support is part of that journey, so thank you once again for tuning in. Until next time, keep celebrating the power of music, and let's continue to amplify the voices of remarkable women in the industry. Stay inspired, stay empowered, and keep the music flowing. With love and gratitude. Till soon.